Hello everybody, today I want to talk about one of my new all-time favorite standalone fantasy novels, and that is The War of the Flowers by Tad Williams. Let's get into the review. Let me say at the beginning that I'm going to do something that I haven't done in a while, which is the first couple minutes of this review is going to be spoiler-free, and then I'm going to tack on a spoiler-filled discussion at the end. Because being a standalone, normally these kind of books don't get as much talk because you, like about the actual plot itself and twists and that kind of thing. Because it's a standalone and there's no like in-between times where fans can like build theories or whatever, which is one of the reasons why huge fandoms aren't usually created around standalones, and also probably why there's a dearth of standalones in the fantasy genre. But I really enjoy that kind of thing. So I will be doing some spoiler talk at the end. This beginning part, don't worry, is going to be spoiler free, and that is because I really want to entice you to read this book. So the first thing about War of the Flowers that actually turned me off for a long time is that it is a portal fantasy, meaning that it is someone from our world and our like existence here on Earth that gets pulled into a fantasy world, or in some ways figures out that there is a magical world around them. That's sort of the broad definition of portal, and this is definitely in it. We open up with our main character, Theo, who is just a regular guy living in like the late 90s, I think late 90s, maybe early 2000s, San Francisco. And actually I think one of the negatives of this book, that isn't a negative yet, but probably eventually means it won't stand the test of time, is that there are tons of references to like that particular time and place. Like pagers and, particular things that not even just like generationally are different, but like a very small sliver of time, like were these things relevant. It was when this was written. That's one thing that will really like date this in some ways, but the characters and the writing definitely are. Theo eventually finds out, as I said, that there is some kind of magical world around him, and not only that, he is actually a pretty major character in the politics of that world accidentally. Neither he nor the people in the other worlds know it, except for a chosen few. And I'm not going to say more than that because there really are some great twists and turns. And I will say, as Tad Williams normally is, this is a slow burn. It takes a while to build up the world, to build up the character of Theo in particular. And honestly, it takes maybe like 200 pages or so before we're actually in the world completely. But I really enjoyed it. It's not a book, kind of like Robin Hobb, that you're going to fly through and have like page turn, page turn, page turn. But you're going to enjoy it, and it is so well written. This other world, I don't think it is a spoiler at all to say that it is a Fae realm in some way. So if you are a fan of the Fae and their sort of mysterious, mischievous magic, I think you're definitely going to like this. And it definitely has elements of sci-fi fantasy as well. It really does have some more technological angles, especially with the Fae and their technology. So there's a lot of different itches that this book is going to scratch. And like I said, it is a single work. There's no sequel or update or anything like this. In 800 pages, you get a whole epic. And that is the huge selling point that I want to tell to you today. I get all of the epic feels that I get out of, like a Game of Thrones or a Malazan. Obviously not to the same level, but that feel is still involved here in just one book, which I love. And even more than that, I love that the story wraps up in one take, especially with Tad Williams. I've talked about this earlier. One of the sort of hidden gems of early 90s fantasy is his Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn trilogy. It's really 4 books. The third one is like ridiculously long. But it's a great series that is too long, that has too many smaller sort of deviating plot threads that keeps it from being great, although it is still really, really good. And I recommend people still to pick it up. And honestly, 4 books is still much shorter than most, books, Stormlight Archive, etc., that we have, in modern fantasy. That said, I love to have an epic Tad Williams tale that is in one single book. I think it's a huge positive. Theming here about human life, the importance of it, the sorrow of child rearing, and having a miscommunication or a separation from your parents and your grandparents, the importance of family and love. There's a lot of really, really good stuff in here. And I'm not going to spoil anything else except to say that on my rating scale, I am going to give this, I kind of went back and forth between long endorsement and universal recommend. I am going to go with a long endorsement here, just because I do understand that for some people this is going to be too slow of a pace, especially if you're one of those people that struggled with like Lord of the Rings or those kind of things. It is definitely more of a sort of beautiful, poetic type of writing. But if you like a Patrick Rothfuss or a Robin Hobb or a Steven Erikson, I think this is a really good one-stop shop for you, especially if you've never checked out Tad Williams before. This is a really good one. His other main series like Shadow March or Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn are all pretty big books and they're pretty big commitments. This is not. So definitely would check out World of Flowers. Also, this Michael Whelan cover is absolutely beautiful and would strongly recommend that you check that book out or that book cover. Artwork, it's just gorgeous. Now, let's do a little bit of spoiler talk. And the main reason I wanted to say this right off the bat is in this book, Theo and him losing his unborn child, the sorrow of a miscarriage from a male perspective. There's not a lot of things in the world that need the male perspective, but that is the pain of that, and the confused pain of a miscarriage is hugely important and impactful to me. That's something that I have gone through and still have immense sorrow about. And I thought Tad Williams captured it so powerfully in this book with Theo's sort of sorrow, but he didn't know this thing that was going to be of his blood, and yet he felt this great weight of loss without being able to connect with it, and that it's hard for him to connect with the pain of his girlfriend in the same way because it was in her body. I think all of that is so powerful and well done by Tad in this book. Hats off to you in that. The explosion of the building, the sort of government building, I forget what the name of the house was, I think is fantastic. All the house politics, while we weren't able to see a whole ton of it, I really, really loved. And it is interesting, I like, Erikson does this a lot too, where like some of the main plot points is just that people completely misread the situation. Like, the reason that the bad houses in this book can get away with what they're getting away with is because the good houses just don't think that they're going to do what they end up doing. They're just like, oh, that'll never happen. They'll never want another house war. It just won't happen. Another War of the Flowers. And then, like, boom, it happens. And they were all caught unprepared. And it's not that, like, you know, the other people were so devious. It was just that they were willing to go where other people wouldn't go, and, like, the misaligned hopes and expectations of others. I think that's really cool. I liked the sort of switch of the unnamed child. I'm forgetting the actual term for it. But I thought that was very good. How everything sort of wrapped up, the struggle to go back and forth, like all of that I think was really, really strong. I really enjoyed this book. And it's, as I'm recording this, it's been a couple of weeks since I finished it, and it is fading to like precise details. But the main core of this book does stay with you, Poppy and Theo. And like I said, for me, sort of the miscarriage storyline and the switch of the children, depth of that pain, I think is all very powerful. And I enjoyed it quite a lot. War of the Flowers, long endorsement. Definitely would say check it out if you haven't. At this point, you've read it because you're watching the spoiler section. So let me know what you think in the comments below. If you're going to put spoilers, do the whole thing where, you know, capital spoilers and then go, you know, space down a couple lines so you don't spoil for other people. I want to talk about this book, so let me know what you think, plot threads that you liked, etc. on this video. Also, my Discord is always open for that kind of thing. Thank you guys for watching. As always, first in, last out.